Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Peace River Town Council regular meeting of April 28th to order at 5 p.m. And I would just like to take a moment to recognize some sad news in our community and really our country. First of all, we have the passing of our former mayor, Tom Tarpe, who will be missed for certain by his family and community. And we thank Tom in his memory for the things that he brought to the town over several terms. We would also like to acknowledge the sadness and the tragedy in the Filipino community with the event in Vancouver this past weekend. It was awful. And no rhyme and reason for it either, as we understand it. And looking forward to Monday, May 5th, we will be acknowledging the Red Dress Day, which acknowledges the missing and murdered children and women. And there will be a walk again this year down Main Street from the museum, ending at Riverfront Park, where there will be some memorial comments. So we have the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
I have none, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone care to move? Councillor Good.
I'll move that council adopt the agenda of the April 28th, 2025 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. And all those in favor? Okay, it is carried. So I think Councillor Shannon came on after that vote. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of April 14th regular council meeting. You've had a chance to review those. Are there any edits that should happen? If not, maybe someone could move us along on that one as well. Deputy Mayor.
I'll move that council adopt the minutes of the April 14th, 2025 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Did Mrs. Shannon say aye? Was that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't quite catch that, but thank you. It is carried. Public meetings, we do not have any at this point in time. However, we now have a presentation from the Metrics Group, which is going to be our 2024 financial statements. And they are on virtual as well. So if you would like to introduce yourself and then please go ahead.
Sure, I can get going. Thanks for having me here tonight to discuss the town's 2024 financial statements. I'm hoping I could share my screen. I could put up the my PowerPoint presentation and go over that. Hopefully that works for everybody. Yeah, hopefully that works. All right. Okay, yeah, so thanks for having me here tonight to discuss the town's financial statements. So usually to begin these presentations, I like to do a bit of an overview of an audit. So why we have an audit and the importance of it. And really it's to enhance the degree of confidence of the intended users of those financial statements. So those main users being yourselves as councillors, ratepayers, municipal affairs, the province of Alberta. So those individuals or organizations with a vested interest in the financial performance of the town. This is achieved by us as auditors expressing an opinion. So we are giving assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement. So what that means is that auditors were seeking reasonable assurance. So it's a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute. As auditors, we exercise professional judgment, maintain professional skepticism, so a questioning mind, stay alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement. So areas such as cutoff, we want to make sure that transactions have been recorded in the correct fiscal period. Revenue recognition, that revenue is being recognized. when services or performance obligations have been met. And then as well as the collectability of accounts receivables. So are your receivables deemed to be collectible subsequent to year end? And as well as a critical assessment of audit evidence. So has the evidence been altered? Did we obtain evidence from a third party, or was it provided by management? The next slide is the independent auditor's report. So at the top, we're given an opinion on the financial statements. The slide's a bit off, as we do have a qualified opinion again this year in relation to inventory. Now, with that said, we had performed an inventory count at the end of this year. So we are expecting that this qualification for inventory will come off the financial statements next year, as we did confirm the ending balance this year in relation to the count, and then would expect next year's to be performed to the same way. When it comes to the basis for opinion, in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, the next part of the audit report discusses responsibility of management, those charged with governance, for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. And then the second part of the auditor's report, the last part, is the auditor's responsibility for the audit, which in turn outlines our objective, which is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. So when it comes to the statement of financial position, so a snapshot of where the town was at as at December 31, 2024, you'll see your cash and temporary investment position was up about 4.4 million year over year. This was due to the town generating positive cash flows from its operation in the tune of 12.2 million. You then spent $3 million on debt, 6.4 million on tangible capital assets, and as well moved 1.5 million from investments to cash. So that was kind of the change in your cash. When it comes to taxes and grants in place of taxes, you'll see your current tax position was up to about 663,000. So these are taxes that were due 1 year or less. Arrears taxes that are 1 year or older, up to $1 million from 837. Now, the town does have an allowance for doubtful accounts in relation to various properties, those in arrears and partly within current taxes there of 1.1 million. So left you at year end with 600,000 versus 639 there. Back to the statement of financial position, you'll see your trade and other receivables at 7.6 million. So that's mainly made up of grants that are to be collected by the town of 5.2 million. And then your utility receivables as well of 1.2. When it comes to debt recoverable, so local improvements to be collected through the tax roll system, down to 1.2, as you collected 147,000 there towards the principal repayment. When it comes to land held for resale, there were no sales in the year there. And then investments of $1 million in relation to your Peace River Waste Management investments, as well as Vision Credit Union shares. So that left the town at about 27 million in financial assets, up about 3.7 million from the prior year. When it comes to liabilities, the town had about 3.7 million in liability or accounts payable, so services rendered in the 2024 year to be paid in 2025. Deposit liabilities of 54,000, and then deferred revenue of 3.5. So deferred revenue is made up of grants collected by the town to be used in subsequent years. So you see your local government fiscal framework of about $1 million. That's a new MSI program there from the province. You saw other items there, which is in relation to the ICF grants, or inter-municipal collaboration framework. And then as well as your Canada Community Building Fund, 436,000 with $1 million used there for various pavement and overlay projects within the town. So started the year at 3.8 million, collected grants, used them on capital projects, and have 3.5 million for subsequent years. Back to the statement of financial position. The next part here is your employee benefit obligations. So vacation and overtime payments to be paid subsequent to year end. Obligations under capital lease, which you had repaid 711,000 in the year. And then your long-term debt at 20 million. So your long-term debt in the year, you'd had no new debt that was issued, so just repayment. So principal repaid of 2.2 million, and then interest paid on the debt of 673,000. When it comes to the town's debt limits, so your debt limits are calculated at 1.5 times operating revenue, so roughly 51 million. Total debt of 20, leaving you with 30 million still in unused debt limits. debt servicing limit of 0.25 times your operating revenue. So that is the total principal and interest to be repaid in subsequent years based on your total debt. So again, well within that limit as well. After looking at long-term debt, your remaining liability is your asset retirement obligation. So your asset retirement obligation of 3.5 million. So that's measured using present value techniques, which are calculated at an undiscounted cash flow of 10.6 million. So what that means is that over the years, as you move towards the settlement dates of these assets, so between 2025 and 2074, when these assets are retired, this liability will increase based on the estimates of how much it would cost to dispose or retire those tangible capital assets that the town has that has a specific liability associated with it. So again, as of today, it's 3.5 million. So if you were to take your financial assets being 26.7 million minus your liabilities of 31.7, you'll see that the town has a net debt position just under 5 million, which is about 6.3 million less than it was in the prior year of 11.3. When it comes to non-financial assets, your tangible capital assets of 132 million. You had various additions in the year of 6.4 million, the purchase of the town hall building, paving work that was done throughout the town, as well as various other machinery and equipment. When it comes to amortization expense of 6.9 million, this reflects the usage of your tangible capital assets. So as you purchase capital assets, they last 5, 10, 20, 40 years based on their expected useful life. And then a percentage of those assets get amortized into your operations. So kind of reflecting the usage period of those assets within the town's operations. After that, inventory for consumption of 1.1 million. So parts, chemicals, and other materials left you with a total non-financial asset position of about 134 million, or about a 462,000 decrease year over year. If you were to take your net financial debt position now and add your non-financial assets, you end up with an accumulated surplus of 129 million. And that is broken out into a few categories. So you'll see your unrestricted surplus of 2.6 million now to the positive. So that was up 3.2 million. Restricted reserves of 16.6. And then as well as your equity and tangible capital assets up to 110 for a net change year over year of 5.86 million, which is in turn the town's annual surplus for the year in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So if you were to look at your unrestricted surplus and restricted surplus, the increase there net is about 3.8 million, and the tangible capital asset increase is about 2 million. So although your annual surplus is 5.8, really 3.8 of it was associated with a change when it comes to the cash part, and then the non-cash being the 2 million for the change in the equity and tangible capital assets. When it comes to operating revenues, the statement of operations for the town, you'll see your user fees were up. You had increased water sewers rates, but mainly in relation to the increased Peace Regional Waste Management Company that gets consolidated into the town's financial statements for about 2.1 million in relation to revenue from them. When it comes to net municipal taxes of 12.4 million, so you saw a 1% increase roughly in assessment year over year. So that's where you're seeing the increase for that. When it comes to franchise fees and concession contracts, the increase in rates there up to 1.8 from 1.7. Other changes year over year, when you look at other revenues, you'll see that's down to 650 from 950. Prior year, you had wildfire costs that were recovered from the Northwest Territories fires there. So that's why that's down, leaving the town at about 34 million, or about $1.9 million increase year over year, or 6%. So looking at your revenues, about 38% this year coming from user fees and sales of good. Again, increase there with the consolidation of the Waste Management Commission. Net municipal taxes making up 36%, government charges for operating 13%, and then your franchise and concession contracts at 5%. When you look at the departments or expenses by function here, transportation at 6.3 million. You saw an increase in parks and recreation in relation to pool and park costs there in that category. When you look at your administration costs, that was up to 3.6 from 2.8, mainly in relation to allowance for doubtful accounts for taxes increasing year over year. So that's where that one goes. Waste management consolidation of 2.6 million. The budget was only 2.1 there, so that's in relation to those the budget numbers missing there. So that's why you're kind of seeing an amount there exceeding the budget. Which left the town here at 31.2, about a $1.1 million increase year over year, and about 1.3 million below the budget, or 4.2%. This next chart here kind of shows you where your budget lines up with your actual. You'll see that everything is either at or below, except when it comes to administration in relation for the allowance for doubtful account change of about 430,000, and then the Peace Regional Waste Management Company consolidation for waste management there. So what categories of the expenses were used in each department? You'll see your salaries, wages, and benefits were up in relation to an increased FTE there. Contract and general services, you saw additional lease costs and repairs and maintenance in that category. Everything else was pretty similar year over year there. When it comes to other in relation to the allowance for doubtful accounts, budgeted 1.1 versus 560 there and other. Again, left you with an increase in expenses of 1.1 million and then below budget of 1.3. So if you were to take your total operating revenues, left your operating expenses, you end up with an operating surplus of just under 2.8 million. You then have other income items, which are capital transfers from grants in relation to funding for capital asset purchases. So your Canada Community Building Fund, MSI, as well as your small communities funding make up the bulk of that, leaving the town with an annual surplus of just over 5.8 million. You'll see a restatement here in relation to 967,000 for the year. This is in relation to the Peace Regional Waste Management Asset Retirement Consolidation, and as well as the library being consolidated into the town's financial statements as well for its control of that organization. So in summary, the annual surplus for the town of 5.8 million. Your net financial debt position is down to 5 million now from 11.3. So definitely moving towards seeing your financial assets exceeding your financial liabilities there. When it comes to audit findings report, just in summary and discussion in relation to the restatements, we do have the modified opinion still with the inventory, so just an update on that. But we have no other unusual accounting policies, estimates, no unrecorded misstatements, and no significant difficulties to note to council. So I just wanted to thank Roxanne, Sam, and the team for their help in us completing our work. And I guess if anybody has any questions on this one before I jump into the audit findings report, I can definitely take those.
Okay, well, here's a naive question, probably. If we ignored amortization, what would our net surplus or deficit be?
Yeah, so your amortization expense was about 6.8 million. So accretion was about 152, so about 7 million. You could probably add 7 million roughly onto the number. Onto the 5.8.
Onto the surplus kind of number.
So then your annual surplus, if you were to add back amortization, would probably be about 13 million or close to about 12.8.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, councilors, questions? Councilor Deputy Mayor Boychuk?
On page 5 under revenue, you have penalties on taxes. What would that be? Or can you explain more?
Yeah, so throughout the year, I don't quite know exactly what your bylaws say, but throughout the year, if you haven't paid your taxes to date, you get charged a penalty at specific times, and then those penalty charges then are reported under penalties and taxes within your statement of operations. So as you see an increased amount of arrears, that's really probably where the bulk of it is coming from. But yeah, if you're not paying, then you're levying penalties on that.
Okay, any other questions before I can ask another one? So the inclusion of the waste management company and the municipal library, That's kind of new in the way it's presented to us this year.
Yeah, so the waste management company, I do believe was been consolidated previously. We did have comments last year in relation to the asset retirement obligation. So that was a new accounting framework or adoption in the prior year. In the prior year financial statements, it was noted still based on the old framework, section 3270, when it comes to the liabilities. So we had a bit of a qualification on the town's financial statements for that in relation to unsure if the balance for that liability was correct, but that was rectified this year. So that was adjusted for in the prior year in relation to the asset retirement obligation adoption. And then the library was new for this year as we did an assessment over the control of the library and noted that the town does have control, and then it should be included as part of the organization itself from a consolidated perspective there. So that's where that one got added in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilors? Questions? Okay, so you have more to tell us?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay. We're ready.
All right. Okay, so this part of our presentation here is our audit findings report. Let's see if I can, I'll make this.
Are we going to get a copy of this presentation as well? Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you would add this one already. Okay, so this is just this is kind of the qualitative aspect of our work, our findings. So report, just kind of what we'll talk about here. I'll go over a brief executive summary. I'll talk about audit results, so areas that we focused on that have risk, if we had any findings there, our misstatements that we would have noted, any control environment, other observations we had, and then just a brief appendices at the end. So when it comes to the executive summary, really the purpose of this report is to promote two-way communication between ourselves as the auditors and yourselves as councillors. So as of today's date, we'll complete our subsequent event procedures. We'll obtain a signed management representation letter. We'll complete our required communication to council, which is what we're doing right now. And then we'll obtain evidence of council's approval of the financial statements. Once we have all those items, we'll be able to issue signed audit financial statements. Now, when it comes to changes from our audit plan, changes there, the only change there would be in relation to materiality, as we previously set materiality based on prior year actuals, and then adjust them in the current year based on the current year actual results. So we ended with a materiality of 1.1 million, or roughly 4% of operating expenses. So what we're saying here is that if your revenues or expenses were to increase by, say, 1.1 million or decrease, we feel that a user of the financial statements, so yourselves as councillors, municipal affairs, may have a different view or outlook of the financial results of the town. In addition to that, we use what's called a performance materiality, which is 75% of that amount. If we were to have unrecorded misstatements that exceeded that amount, we would be in discussions with management to report entries in order for us to give an opinion. So although we set everything at 4%, we have lower thresholds when it comes to in accordance with us giving an opinion. So when it comes to significant difficulties, we do not have any difficulties to report to council. When it comes to our engagement team, so myself and Craig are the main contacts responsible for the services that our firm provides to your town. When it comes to audit results, these are areas of focus for us, so areas of risk. So main one being management override of control. So management's in a unique position to potentially perpetrate or manipulate the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. So we use data analytic tools that identify journal entries that may be indicative of that. So entries that are, say, reported outside of work hours, on the weekend, certain number sequences. So we're looking for odd or unusual amounts. We're then testing those to make sure they are valid business entries. So we had no significant findings in that area. When it comes to revenue recognition, we want to make sure that grant funding is being recognized in accordance with external restrictions. So are those grants that have been approved being spent on the approved projects that they were allocated to? So we're doing work over there in tangible capital assets, revenue, deferred revenue, make sure that's all good. So we had no significant findings in that area as well. Other areas of risk, taxes, user fees. So we did not have any findings in those categories. When it comes to operating expenses and salaries, same thing there. No significant findings in those categories in relation to our risks and as well as our response to mitigate that. When it comes to cash and cash equivalents and receivables, nothing there. Receivables is definitely a concern. Always, we want to make sure that is deemed collectible subsequent to year end, and that there's support in relation to that. So we had no findings there. And then our last one's tangible capital assets. Obviously, always a big area of the financial statements, making sure that we don't have assets that are expensed that should be capital, or items that are in capital that potentially should be expensed, as well as your amortization. And then also how those assets were funded. So if you're budgeting X, and these are the projects that are approved, making sure that those projects are the ones that have costs associated with them. And again, how they were funded. When it comes to inventory for consumption, this is just in relation to our qualification, which we talk about in the significant qualitative aspects of accounting policies section. When it comes to misstatements, so there was 13 audit adjustments that were made or proposed subsequent to us beginning our work. The net effect of those was an increased assets of 6.6, liabilities of 3.6, 1.1 for accumulated surplus, and annual surplus of 1.8. The bulk of these is really in relation to the consolidation of the commission as well as the library within the town's financial statements. So we also have no unrecorded misstatements noted within our report here. So there are no entries that have not been, posted within the financial statements that we would have noted while performing our work. The next part is just a restatement. So just kind of summarizing the comparative changes year over year in relation to the consolidation of the library board, as well as the regional management company's restatement of asset retirement obligations. So the net effect to the financial statements of the town for comparative purposes. The next part here is our control environment, other observations. So we had no significant control deficiencies to note. When it comes to the qualitative aspects of accounting policies, when it comes to inventory, just note that we were unable just to satisfy ourselves with inventory and not, it's more has to do with the prior year beginning balance, as we're unsure if that amount is correct. So we're not sure if the change year over year should be different from what it is. We did perform the inventory count this year. So we are confident that next year we'll be able to remove this qualification from our report and issue a clean audit opinion. When it comes to your accounting estimates, we feel that your estimates are in line with adequate information there when it comes to amortization, asset retirement obligations, inventory, as well as contingent liabilities. When it comes to appendices, so Appendix 1 is required communication in relation to independence. So we do not hold a financial interest position, have a personal or business relationship or economic dependence on the town. Appendix 2 is our management representation letter that we'll get management to sign in relation to us issuing signed audit financial statements. And then our last one is Appendix 3, which in turn summarizes a new accounting standard that's coming into effect for December 31, 2027. So this will see a change in your presentation of your financial statements, mainly to the statement of financial position. Currently, your non-financial assets sit at the bottom of that statement. They will actually move up to be underneath your financial assets. So you'll start to have a total asset number. You'll then have financial liabilities, non-financial liabilities, and net assets. And those three in turn will add up and equal to your total assets. So you'll see more of a traditional balance sheet approach there. You'll also see a statement of financial asset position. So financial assets less financial liabilities, and as well as your continuing statement of operations, net assets, which will show remeasurement gains, losses, unrestricted, restricted, and accumulated surplus. So so just some changes coming down a few years from now, and that's kind of it for my audit findings report. I guess if anybody has any questions on that, I can definitely address those as well.
Well, I'll ask the awkward question I'm told I should be asking. Is there any reason that we should move into closed session to have a further discussion with you?
That's not really for me to say. That's more up to council and what you feel is for you. But I can say that all my findings or what I would like to say are all in my report. So
Thank you. Councilors, any further questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. And also thank you, Roxanne, for, I'm sure, managing it with Mr. Mugford in the background here. And it sounds like a good news scenario. Our bottom line has gone up a bit, which is always great news. And it means that, well, in my opinion, it means that some of the reserve situations are starting to have money in them, put it that way, which is a good thing for long-term planning. So thank you again. And one last chance, councilors, any questions? Well, okay, well, thank you very much. And onwards to
Thank you.
probably next year.
all right, enjoy your meeting and I'll see you again. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. So next up, we have bylaws, and we're looking at bylaw number 2173, the tax rate bylaw for 2025 with Director Mugford.
Evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I have before you bylaw 2173, which is our tax rate bylaw for 2025. So pursuant to section 353 of the MGA, each council must pass a property tax bylaw annually. The property tax bylaw authorizes council to impose a tax in respect of property in the municipality to raise revenue and to be used towards the expenditures and transfers set out in the budget and requisitions. As part of the tax supported operating budget for 2025, which was approved on December 9, 2024. A municipal requisition of $12,569,880 is required. The tax rate bylaw must set and show separately all tax rates imposed to raise the revenue required. Other levies collected through the municipal tax notice include Alberta School Foundation Fund and North Peace Housing Foundation requisitions. Tax notices will be mailed to property owners in mid-May. And all the taxes are due June 30th. Normally we bring this a couple of weeks later, but because of some potential labor action regarding Canada Post, and it's just to make sure that we got everything in the mail on time, we've moved it up a couple of weeks. So we wanted to get this before this evening. So assessment information, financial implications. Overall, the 2024 assessment values used for the 2025 tax billing are in line with previous year. There was an overall increase in the total assessed value of taxable town properties of $27,874,160, or 2.53%. And in the RFD, we include a chart that breaks it down by category. So as an example, single family residential increased by 4.09%, apartments were largely flat, condominium units dropped by 10.5%, and so on. And it totals out to an overall increase of 2.53. So these increases are generally due to inflation and are influenced by economic conditions within the town, but there's also other elements that could affect individual valuations of properties. In 2025, the amount to be raised by municipal taxes was increased by 0.89% from $12.46 million to approximately $12.57 million, around $112,000 total. So that's our requisition. We included a sampling of example properties in chart, both single family residential and commercial properties. You'll see that again for each one of these properties, the assessed value, it might change year over year based on the conditions, but it could also just be It could be largely like flat, like in some of the instances, but this, again, this is just kind of an example for someone that's looking at this to say, okay, here's approximately based on the assessed value of my property, what it would cost. So the options before council this evening are to provide first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2173, tax rate bylaw for 2025. The advantages are it will allow the town to levy taxes to achieve its municipal requisition, and it supports the amounts approved as part of the 2025 tax supported operating budget. There's no disadvantages with this, and the financial implications are it allows the town to generate revenue to continue operations. Option 2 would be to decline to provide first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2173. There's no advantages to that, and the disadvantage is we wouldn't levy any taxes, which would impede our ability to operate. Option 3 would be to only provide first reading of 2173. Again, there's no advantages to this. The disadvantage is it may require a change to the due date of the property and late bylaw to allow at least 30 days following receipt of the tax bill prior to it being due. And the impact financially is administration's time to change those due dates around. So the recommendation from administration is that council provide first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2173, the tax rate bylaw for 2025. I also want to point out, so this is on page, I guess, 48 of the package. I don't have the prior year comparables in here, but under class 1A, just as an example, the general municipal rate for 2025 is set at 10.128. So that's the municipal portion. I want to compare that with last year's, which was 10.54. So all things equal, if your assessed value on your municipal property didn't change year over year, you'd see a very slight reduction because that mill rate has dropped. And again, the same is true for commercial. It's just, again, it's a much smaller impact, but it's in 2025, it's set at 21.8098 versus it was 21.82. So again, very, very small reduction, but a reduction nonetheless. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, so the school requisition and the housing requisitions, do you know what those percentage are averaged this round?
I don't have the percentage changes for that right in front of me. I could get that information for you.
Because people will look at their bill, and I see this chart, the total levy, I guess includes those, right? Or not?
The total does. The total
Yeah.
is your cumulative of all of the.
So we could look at the chart and take the difference between the municipal and the total levy and say that is the other two aspects to the bill.
Correct. And again, the town has no control over those.
Yeah.
We're told what number to collect on their behalf.
Okay, questions, councilors? Deputy Mayor?
We have, I have a question when we're showing us these examples here of the single family residentials. And when I look at the examples you gave, like in the 200 to let's say $300,000 to $500,000 range, their taxes are going up almost $300. And then if you look at the 500,000 plus, you're only going up $16. Am I reading that right, or am I seeing things wrong, or?
Yeah, so that's to what I was explaining, Deputy Member Boychuk. It just comes down to how large the change is for that individual property on the assessed value. So like as an example, for the 500 single family residential 500,000 plus, their assessed value in 2024 was 618,100. In 2025, it was up to 635,700. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but the difference there is like a less than $20,000 increase in the assessed value. Whereas if you look at 200 to 300,000, that parcel, it was only a $2,000 increase. And so you'll notice on that property, very, very small increase in the assessed value. The municipal tax number actually dropped on that parcel. So even though their assessment went up, because the mill rate dropped, their tax bill dropped Again, if you think about it intuitively, our assessment base, so the base that we're taxing increased by 2.53%. The overall requisition, or the amount that we're collecting, only increased by, ultimately ended up being 0.89%. So it was less than a 1% increase. So, you know, all things equal, if your individual property's assessment didn't change, you would see a very slight decrease in your taxes. If that makes sense.
Deputy Mayor?
And one more quick one, and is that because the apartment fires were down 3 million in the condos? Is that how that goes?
Yeah, I would expect that that's driving a big chunk of that reduction.
Any other questions? CAO Miller?
Your worship, just the question on North Peace Housing, they had a release that said 2% their requisition was going up over last year.
Thank you. And at least the news told us the education part had gone up across the province, so. Okay, any further questions of Mr. Rupert? Okay, would someone perhaps like to move us through to go to first reading? Councilor Carter?
I'd like to move the council provides first reading to bylaw 2173, tax rate bylaw for 2025.
Great. Any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the meaning of the motion? Okay, then, all those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
And any opposed? None. It is carried. Thank you. Would someone move us to second reading? Councillor Good?
I'll move second reading of bylaw 2173 tax rate bylaw for 2025.
Thank you. Again, any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the motion? And all those in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? None. It is carried. Thank you.
I'll move we go to third reading for bylaw 2173.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlehorn. Okay, everyone's clear on this motion? All those in favor?
In favor.
It is carried. Thank you. And perhaps someone, Councillor Ford?
Yes, your worship, I'd like to move that council give third reading to bylaw 2173 tax rate bylaw for 2025.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion? Everybody's clear on the meaning of the motion? All those in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? None. It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mudford, and thank you and your staff for getting us to this point of the year. Okay, now we're still seeing Mr. Mudford, and he's now going to talk about the Town of Peace Service 2024 consolidated financial statements.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the issue is the approval, or review and approval of the 2024 financials. So we've attached for council's approval our audited 2024 consolidated financial statements, which must be approved before being released to the public. Council has met with the town's auditor to review and ask any questions they have of the statements. Alberta municipalities are required to submit approved audited financial statements to municipal affairs annually before May 1st. The options before council are to option 1 to approve the audited 2024 financial statements, which advantages are complies with MGA section 276. There's no disadvantage and no financial implications. Option 2, council could decline to approve the 2024 audit financial statements as presented to allow time for further discussion and direct administration to seek an extension to the May 1st requirement for municipal affairs. There's no advantages to this. The disadvantage is failure to meet MGA section 276 requirements, and the financial implications, potential borrowing issues. Approved audited financial statements are required to be submitted to lenders on an annual basis to maintain operating lines of credit. The recommendation from administration is that council approve the audited 2024 consolidated financial statements as presented and attached here 2 forming part of these minutes. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Okay, maybe we'd like him to go over the statement in detail again. Not. Any further comments or questions though on the statements before we perhaps move along? Okay, would someone like to move us along with the motions? Councillor Carr.
I move the council approve the 2024 audited financial statements.
Okay, and I'm gonna add as presented and attached here to forming part of these minutes, just so everybody in the future has them. How about that?
Perfect.
Great, okay. Everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor?
In favor.
Great, it is carried. Well, thank you, Mr. Mumford, again, and thank you and your staff for getting us to this point and doing the changeover with the inventory and getting all that in line.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, now we have the Town of Peace River Municipal Library Board member appointments with Director Bell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, this report before you this evening is in regards to the potential appointment of 4 new board members to the library board. The library board has reviewed applications and is making recommendations for the appointment of Gabrielle Fraser, June Hickey, Langto, and Maxine Elter to the Town of Peace Library Board. Some, yeah,
Have some tongue twisting tonight. Okay, do you want me to say anything for?
That's everything, yeah.
Okay, so these recommendations have come forth from the Municipal Library Board. Are there any questions, discussion?
I have a question.
Councillor Carr?
Sorry, why would we only have 1 resignation and 4 people joining?
They've had vacancies on their board for quite some time. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So this actually brings them, my understanding is to a full board with these
Okay.
4 members.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Someone want to move us forward? Maybe Deputy Mayor?
Sure, I'll make a motion that council appoint Gabrielle Fraser, Inga Lancott, June Hickey, and Maxine Elter to the Town of Peace River Municipal Library Board for 3-year term.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
It is carried. Well, thank you.
One other motion, Your Worship,
Okay.
as requested within the report, though I did not highlight it, my apologies, is just the acceptance of the resignation from Kathy Hugo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe we'll do that right now then. Someone care to make that motion, Deputy Mayor thing?
I'll make that again. The council accept the resignation of Kathy Hugo from the Town of Peace River Municipal Library Board, effective January 2025.
Okay, thank you. Everyone is clear on that motion. All those in favor?
In favor.
I don't know what would happen if we defeated that motion, but very good.
She's on for life.
Thank you, and please pass along our thanks to the volunteers who have joined that board, and we'll help our municipal library along. Next up, though, we have the financial statements of the Peace River Municipal Library Board with Director Bell.
Thank you again. The library board's financials officially were reviewed by the Town of Peace River's auditors this past 2024 year. This would have been the first time that the town auditors conducted this work. It was in line with the library board bylaw number 1255. In addition, actually, it assisted the library board financially as the cost of the audit was borne by the town in this particular case and will be going forward. So somewhat of a bit of an assistance to the library board to remove that expense from their regular costs. The statements are available for council's review as attached. They have been reviewed by the library board at a previous board meeting. Maybe Councillor Boychuk, if he was in attendance, can answer any potential questions that council may have. But the auditors did not bring anything to the town's attention of any concern. And they will be submitted by the library with their provincial requirements as per the Library Act. So any question?
So the bottom line is, they have a surplus by the time, well, they have some amortization, I'm assuming everybody
Correct.
goes to do these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good for them, and thanks to their management for that as well, probably. Any questions though of the statements? Okay, would someone like to move this forward with a motion on this matter? Councillor Good?
I'll move the council accept the Town of Peace River Municipal Library Board 2024 financial statements for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor of it?
In favor?
It is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Municipal Planning Commission member appointments, and Director Fisher will help us with this.
Good evening, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. So we have 3 vacancies on our Municipal Planning Commission right now. So 2 members, Roger Ashfield and Richard McIntosh, their terms are done. And then we had 1 vacant position kind of sitting outstanding, that's been sitting outstanding pretty much since I started here. So of those 2 that are expired, 1 is willing to stay on with the Municipal Planning Commission. Mr. Ashfield, who's not a town resident, but he has training and is in the region. And then we've got a new application that we received recently from Mr. Olayemi Balola to join the MPC. He's got a planning background as a professional, has some experience in the field, kind of understands like municipal bylaw. So we need council to appoint kind of some additional members. If we don't have enough members for the Municipal Planning Commission, we have difficulties achieving quorum. That affects our timelines for reviewing variances or discretionary permit applications from our land use bylaw. Currently, all of those, any variance or anything with that's discretionary goes from administration to the Municipal Planning Commission for approval. So administration would prepare a report, present it to the MPC. If we can't get quorum or have challenges getting quorum, it slows down approvals on those applications. So it's not really great for people who are wanting to do development here. So we have sort of 3 options. We could appoint Mr. Babalola, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, to the Municipal Planning Commission and decline to appoint Mr. Ashfield, as Mr. Ashfield no longer lives inside the town boundary. Or we could appoint both of them, and having more members just makes it a little easier to get quorum. We'd still have 1 vacancy that will stay advertised for the community. We'd be hoping to fill that at some point. Or council could decline to provide any appointments, and that would make it really challenging to get quorum and keep these permits going. Administration's recommendation is that the council appoints Olayemi Babalola to the MPC and Roger Ashfield for a 3-year term.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Good?
Yeah, with no comments regarding the people who are being brought forward. The disadvantage of option 2 was that it's inconsistent with eligibility requirements of the bylaw. And that's that people have to live in town, etc. So I'm not making any comment on the character of the people involved. I have no negative feelings toward anybody in that area. But the reason that certain people were on fire was because they met the requirements under the eligibility of the bylaw. Just bringing that up, so.
Sorry, you're right, I glossed over that, Councilor Good, I apologize.
Oh,
So for clarity, council has already passed a motion at one point. I think it's since I've been here, in late 2023, you keep, Mr. Ashfield on the NPC for the same reason.
That was because my memory is correct. There is something in the bylaw that allows for a person who has significant whatever ties or whatever, or because he was at the time with TMI. That's why I didn't want to get into the personality thing, because it's not about that part of it. It's about the function. So the bylaw, so when it was passed by council, it was in recognition of that connection. And I'm not at this point voicing an opinion on it either way, so.
So administration did have a discussion about that. And ultimately it is up to council as to whether or not to waive that requirement.
I'm fine with that.
He does have extensive training and has performed multiple terms with the NPC, and he's willing to continue on. So I do think that there is some value to have somebody who is knowledgeable, has participated, and does understand how that works in the framework, just to make sure that we can keep getting enough people in the room for meetings.
So I'm reading the bottom of page 117, and basically pertains to this discussion. So it's no more than one non-resident member, but as was said, who has a substantial connection to the town of Peace River by virtue of either owning property or operating business within the town's municipal boundaries, or council otherwise deems a substantial connection for the good and good and sufficient reason. And preference would be given to resident applications. So we're not contravening having more than one non-resident, which is part of it as well. Well, it's very important that this group have enough so that there is good possibilities of quorum for any meeting that's called. I know that the meetings are not on a set rotation, but they tend to happen when there is a need and people try and come to them and make the quorum. So very important in that way. But any further comments, discussion? Someone be prepared to put forth motion then?
I can do that.
Oh, lovely. Okay, Councillor Shannon,
I move that council appoint Babalola and R. Ashfield to the Municipal Planning Commission for a 3-year term.
thank you. Their discussion on the motion, and everyone's clear on the motion? All those in favor?
In favor.
May I ask a question?
We're kind of halfway through this.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we are not accepting Roger Ashfield with this motion?
we are accepting him.
We are accepting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor of that motion?
In favor.
Opposed? Okay, it is still carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Next up, we have the Sakatella Friendship Society invitation to join Circle of Friendship. Councillor Shannon and CEO Miller. Who's going to speak to this one?
I guess I will. Thank you, Your Worship. So we council has received a letter of invitation for Councillor Shannon to join a recently or newly formed friendship circle. And as you can see in the attached letter, the friendship circle, the goals are to bring the community together and to share knowledge about
Thank you. So this is a different group than the mental health task force.
As near as I understand, yes, and Councillor Shannon should be able to shed a bit more light on it.
Yes, it is a different scenario of a group.
Okay, is any further questions, discussion on this one? Deputy
So
Mayor?
What is the main objective of this group, Councillor Shannon?
it's acting as a bridge basically between the community and the shelter, and bringing the right people in the room, and they are coming, the business community is coming with conditions they'd like to see changed. So the groups are going to get together and start talking and make some changes that we can see immediately. And the both sides are wanting to come to the table, and it's going to be a really good thing. I think it's a positive thing for Peace River and a positive thing for all involved.
And this is being driven by the Sagittarian themselves?
This is being driven by the people that are on the circle. When it first started, it came from a discussion between myself and the president of the board of Sagatawa, when I wanted to learn more and educate myself and find out some information that I thought was not right or whatever, to clarify, so which we did. And out of that first visit, we decided that maybe that's the best way, just get to that table, bring the sides to the table, and yes, they'll kind of facilitate that.
So if this appointment was to happen, town council would receive minutes of these meetings and so on?
Yes, I'd bring you minutes. It's good, kind of like a circle, with rooted in Indigenous teaching. So I'm not sure if minutes will be taken there. Like, we haven't really had our first meeting yet for that kind of to plan that part.
So if not minutes, maybe
Something, yeah, I'll report for sure, absolutely.
yeah. Okay, any further questions, councillors? Okay, so this would mean that this is since we're talking budget tonight, it would be not part of the budget that has been passed for the expenses for a councillor to attend this meeting, so I don't know if that has to come into it. Councillor Good?
I have no issue with it, except that in terms of process or procedure, if we name a person as a delegate from council, normally we do that to boards, etc., that are boards of council or structures of council. There's nothing stopping a councillor from attending and bringing a report back from the Legion if they wish. For any organization or any group of people. I mean, I can see some value in this. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking strictly on process. Nothing more, and I say nothing more than process. Does this become then, to an extent, like a quasi appointment of council? We normally don't appoint to things that we don't have a membership in or whatever. So if I get some clarification from administration, we can probably do whatever we want to do. I just want to know that we're okay to do what we want to do without causing issues in other areas. Because somebody come on later and say, well, I'd like to be appointed by council to go visit the whatever, to go do whatever. Then they're now deputized by council, then they'll speak on behalf of council to a degree. So that's just a question I have, and again, no statement on the value of the organization, no statement on the people involved. I just have some discomfort with the structure.
I can kind of speak to that a bit. It was more like an informal circle. It's not, it was an invitation. So it's not, I can see what you're saying there. Like I would sit there as a volunteer. I wouldn't, it wouldn't be like a charged town thing, but I totally see what you're saying there, Don. I absolutely see what you were saying.
Yeah, and I hope you do understand absolutely that I have no difficulty with you or the organization or anything. It's just, I think it sets a direction for the future where somebody can come along and say, well, you said this person could do this, and now I want to do the, I don't know, pick your organization, and it could put council in an uncomfortable position because then you're giving one person, I don't know, I wouldn't mind council looking in, maybe look, not as a permanent situation, go now as yourself and whatever, and council, administration could bring back to council their sort of recommendation on how we proceed with appointments like this. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we ask administration to bring back a recommendation on how we proceed with council appointments to organizations that are not part of the town or. Well, I think you understand where I want to go to.
Part of our current organizational
Sorry?
meeting. Appointments.
Yeah.
They're not part of our current organizational
That
meeting
are not
appointments.
Whatever, yes, or not part of the legislative thing, like North Beach Housing, we have a legislative requirement, but we don't for this, so that's all. And thank you for your work in the communication there, Shelley. It's nothing to do with that part of it.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate. We do have another meeting coming up here. I will be attending that regardless. So I'll look forward to it.
I hope you would.
Okay, so could Ms. Parsons please read the motion that we have put forth?
Sort of.
Councillor Good, please let me know if you want this adjusted. So council ask administration to provide a recommendation on how we proceed with council appointments to boards and committees not currently a part of our organizational meeting or not considered a board or committee of council.
Fine.
Okay, any further discussion?
I would just like to add that it isn't a board or a committee. It's like a circle based on Indigenous teachings. It's how they were. That's why it's not really to be called a committee or a board. It's
Yeah,
just a sharing. So
organization or other external structure.
Sorry, or other structure.
Other structure or group.
So the motion now reads.
Move that council ask administration to provide a recommendation on how we proceed with council appointments to boards and committees not currently a part of our organizational meeting or not considered a board, committee, organization, or other structure or group.
Yeah, the intent's clear.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, is everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
in favor.
Opposed? None, it is carried. Okay, thank you. Next up, number 6 on this agenda is Peace River Nuclear Project Proposal, Public Engagement Opportunities, and CAO Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So on April 14, the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada, known as IAC, posted the initial project description for the proposed Peace River Nuclear Power Project. And that posting launched timelines, a number of timelines, and the first one being 30 days to submit feedback on the initial project description. Copies of that project description are available in multiple locations around town, online, and at our partner, our neighboring municipalities. And what happens is any concerns that are heard within those 30 days by the IAC is then is put into and forms part of summary of issues that the proponent would need to address as the next phase of the impact assessment. So summary copies again are available, readily available for the public. The public has opportunity until May 14th to submit, and this is only the first of many opportunities to engage and to submit concerns and questions. So council, as representing the community, also has opportunity to submit our concerns to be addressed. And we have opportunity to do so as the town of Peace River, also as part of the rec committee members. So at the next GMP, administration will be seeking some direction from council. If you would like to submit with the rec committee as the town of Peace River combined as well, and then we would be looking for some input on what council would like to have addressed in our response to the engagement component. Thank you.
Thank you. So this Energy Alberta project is going to be a multi-year type of evaluation, regulation process. So the CAO Miller has mentioned that the first part, they've submitted their initial plan, but now this 30-day window of opportunity is where it's the first engagement that we will be part of if we so wish. It is not the only engagement that will be possible. And as CAO Miller indicated, it councils, our regional group, individuals, businesses, any variety of people can submit their thoughts on this initial plan. And it's obviously rather a sophisticated project, and it's going to, over time, take a lot of thought, I guess, to know what we even want to ask about sometimes, let alone react to. So I think that we're going to need to get our act together as much as we can, but realize this almost is off the side of the desk right now, because other things are happening in our community as well that we need to prioritize. This is going to be a sort of a parallel prioritization thing, I would say, over time. But anyways, questions or comments of the briefing note? Sure, we'll take a motion.
Yeah, I'll move the council accept the briefing notes for information and direct administration to engage the Peace River Nuclear Project assessment lead and schedule a meeting to learn more about how the integrated assessment process works and how the town can participate.
Thank you. And of note in the package is also a presentation that happened virtually on, I don't know, this past week.
Yeah, this past week.
Yeah. And in there is also a project schedule for those of you who are wondering about that. So anyways, we have a motion before us. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor?
In favor.
Okay, it is carried. Thank you, Mr. Good. Moving. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break here. So we'll be back at 6:19. Next up is number 7, Counselor Ford's notice of motion and CEO Miller and Counselor Ford, however. Is to go.
Would you like me to start?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, we'll make it short and sweet. First of all, CAO Miller, thank you very much for responding to the email as far as the process of how we hire temporary positions. So I actually, the reason for the notice of motion was about a month ago, after we got that reply, I was talking to Mayor Manzer about this. And the clips that we were sent, and this is just my own opinion, the clips that we were sent, one was the CAO bylaw under, I think it was F3, retain the services of any individual corporation, thank you, for purposes related to the operations of the municipality, and enter into agreements and contracts and complete all necessary documents required for the provision of such services, provided the expenditure does not exceed the amount approved by the council in its annual budget. I do believe that's the operating budget, if I'm correct. So with that being said, that clip it there compared to the clip it in the organizational chart. And like I say, after speaking with Mayor Manzer, they didn't really meld all that well, and a lot of it's based on interpretation. So the question I had asked, well, is if administration needs to hire, let's say, 5 positions for whatever it may be, those positions are allowed to be hired, even if they're a full-time equivalent as a temporary position, is my understanding. And that was kind of the interpretation of that document. So with some concerns that I heard through council or in the council chamber, I'm just going to use 2 examples. One was the temporary bylaw position, where the position was created, hired, it worked. One councillor in the room had asked, well, I thought that position was supposed to be done when the CPO positions, the 2 CPO positions were hired. And I do believe at that point in time, we were told that because of the interpretation on the CAO document, that that position was still needed. And because of the interpretation, we're going to keep that going for a while. Okay, which is all fine and dandy. The other example is a public meeting that had happened. I know we discussed it at the table once before, of where there was an announcement by a councillor at a public meeting that we're hiring 2 temporary CPO positions. However, a lot of us around the council table did not know that. So when you get questioned the next day when you're out in public, so I never heard that. I don't even have that information. So the reason for the notice of motion is not to disrupt any of the town's operations, but I'd like to see the CAO bylaw rewritten a bit so it melds with the organizational chart. So for instance, if administration wanted to hire a position temporarily, even though it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that a briefing note would be brought to council for either approval or disapproval, and approved by council, just like the full-time employment that we have on our organizational chart. That way council is always kept in the loop. We know what the plan is moving forward, and I'll just leave that with council.
So, Mr. Ford is referring to 2 documents. One is the organizational chart, and the other is the CAO bylaw. And the paragraph he read basically was from the CAO bylaw, section 5F3. And like my reading of that is it's the way council and admin have been operating for a long time. In terms of somebody, I don't know, suddenly becomes ill or something, then there's a temporary replacement hired for that. And that would have been within the budget because the initial person within the budget. Other situations that seem to come up are, you know, seasonal workers. Sometimes my understanding would be that there would be I don't know, some little project that needs to be done that needs extra workers to do, and that the CAO would have the ability to get the project done by hiring extra workers because, well, it would have been in the budget. And to my way of thinking, the budget kind of supersedes almost everything, but that's the way I'm thinking. And therefore, on the schedule, when it says temporary and casual employees approved through the budget, there's the budget again that's already doing this. With respect to the example of the bylaw officer, it was my understanding that in the budget, there was provision for the CPO types of people, which quite frankly, we weren't having success finding and hiring and getting them here. So public concerns and so on said we should be doing something. So the bylaw person came into being. Still in the protective services budget, I would understand. The point about not listing a bylaw there is, I guess, one of the questions. So, but anyways, that's what I'm thinking. Mr. Ford and then others.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Like I say, that temporary bylaw position was created because we needed it. And I don't think anybody around the table disagrees with it. But that position was supposed to be done once the two CPO positions were hired. But based on, like I say, based on the interpretation,
Yeah.
that position is still, to my understanding, is still ongoing. Other than that, the temporary positions that a lot of them that we speak about are already pre-approved in the organizational chart. When it comes to summer program staff, summer park staff, it's all listed on the chart. Anyway, that's just, like I say, the notice of motion was to get it on the agenda, to get some discussion from council, and I'll leave it at that.
Great. Oops. Well,
They shut mine off.
I don't know what mine's doing today. Counselors, CAO, Miller, anybody else? Counselor Good.
Again, and with all respect to Councillor Ford's notice of motion and the reasoning behind it, which I don't have a problem with. I think in any organization, administration has to have the ability on a temporary basis to react to virtually anything that comes along. On a temporary basis. Now, we could have a discussion on what is temporary, what is permanent, what is full-time. When it becomes a position that's going to be full-time, I think that it certainly has to come back to this, an FTE is going to be here full-time. But forget the protection thing, though, I can speak to that also. If administration realized they were getting backlogged, let's say in the engineering department, and felt that they needed to be able to hire an assistant engineer for a 3-month period because there's some stuff going on somewhere. Let's say there's a slide, let's say there's any number of different reasons. You could do it in administration, you could do it in human resources, depending on what's going on in your environment. I think administration has to have the ability to man those temporary positions as they see fit within the overall budget. If it's going to go, and that's what that clause in the bylaw itself allows. It doesn't allow the creation of a full-time position. If the administration really believed that that should then become a full-time position, they would have to come back to council and say, this is what's happened since we've done this. These are the benefits we've seen from that decision. Or the downsides, whatever, we can bring a report to council, which point council could say yay, nay, or different. Nothing really changes. And it doesn't have anything to do with the organizational structure. there's a separation between the organizational structure and the bylaw, and it's there for a reason. It's there to allow administration to react to things. I think you're kind of, to a degree, trying to manage administration more than you want to if you don't allow them to have the ability to put a person in on a temporary basis. Now, you might want to have discussion on what temporary means. But it doesn't mean casual, and it doesn't mean 2 weeks here or there. It could be a couple of months or whatever, but it can't go to the point of full-time. So that's just my point of view. I think you need to leave administration some room in there, or else, to a degree, what you're saying is we don't trust you to behave responsibly. And there's a remedy for that too. If we honestly believe that the CAO, which is our only employee, has had a habit of being irresponsible, we have recourse. It's not pleasant, but we have it. We have the power to deal with that. They are our employee. We can do any number of things to rectify that. But I don't think you want to tie a person's hands and then say, well, this didn't get done. I don't know, I'll leave it at that. I think I've made my point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark?
I agree with just about every point that was made by everyone so far. I think it's never wrong to revisit a document and fine tune it. And I think Councillor Ford has a very valid point in that. I would also like to see some sort of timeline put on temporary. Now, I realize that's going to vary, but I mean, you can't keep temporary for 3 months. It would still be temporary. 3 years, it's still temporary, but I mean, we need some sort of a definition to determine what temporary is. Like I say, I think there's valid points on both sides, but I do think the document needs to be revisited and maybe taken a little bit of the interpretation out and make it more clear.
Councillor Clark?
Yeah.
I know we don't like.
You're both on the right.
My other twin brother here. I agree. I think that the document, that the bylaw itself, the CAO bylaw could be revisited. We can do that, and then we can do that. I don't think it's in the time frame where we can't do that. I think that's a valid request. But I don't think in the intermediate time, you say you can't do anything until this is done. I think if we go to the bylaw and at the end of it, we don't like the temporary position, let's say it takes 2 months, 3 months to bring the bylaw back. That's within the realm. I think that anybody here would accept that temporary could be okay. So I think we could leave it as it is, have it brought back to council for reconsideration. I think that would meet all the requirements of what everybody wants. So.
Other points? Deputy Mayor?
CO Miller, you say that level of service would be greatly reduced. Can you give us a couple examples on what would happen here?
Sure, so without getting into personnel issues, for example, if somebody has to go on medical leave, we have one that could possibly be doing so. I would not have the ability to backfill that position at the moment. Somebody's going on maternity leave. Similarly, I wouldn't have position ability to backfill that position as the motion is written. Those are just two examples come to mind.
Thank you. Councillor Ford and then Clark.
Yep, so I gotta bring up the notice of motion. So with the way the notice of motion is written, so my understanding then is if the wording of
The part where
it says,
until that's brought back, you
Until
can't
it's
do it.
brought back.
Take that out, bring the other part back in, and I'll support it.
okay, so
To freeze
my
all-
question is does that satisfy?
You can do it, sure.
Yeah.
So CEO Miller, you had a question.
So for clarity, the motion would end after council meeting, delete and to freeze all hiring of non-approved temporary positions until the CAO bylaw has been
What would the motion read?
What was the motion read? Would it just end after council meeting, update at the next council meeting?
I would say bring it back as quick as reasonably possible.
I would disagree that next council meeting is
Yeah.
possible. And maybe even this term is possible. Because I think there's that procedural bylaw is waiting for us at some point. That was on the schedule anyhow. So this is a new one, and really these bylaws get reviewed usually every, I don't know, 3, or maybe I'm thinking something else. They're regularly reviewed, are they not? Updated, or
So,
maybe I'm thinking of the library.
I believe the bylaw, the sale bylaw was reviewed and then. 2015 actually was the last
Yeah.
time.
So it is due.
It's due.
It is due for a refresher, but I would rather leave it up to admin to try and figure out in their schedule of to-dos. Also, remember this July and August, we are scheduled for 1 meeting each month, not sort of 3 each month, so that adds in there as well. I'm not opposed to updating the bylaw, I'm just speaking against having okay, it has to be done by next meeting, it has to be done by July 1, even, that's just not maybe enough time. Somebody over here, C.A. Will Miller?
Oh, so worship and council, as you can see, I don't typically speak to notices of motion and provide any comment. But as this was written, it does pose what we feel are unintended consequences. Because we don't know, tomorrow somebody could leave tomorrow and I could be in a position to have to fill that, and to have to even wait to come back to council could be some weeks, a couple of weeks, especially as we go into the summer. In all of my experience, 40 years working in corporate world and combined with municipal, 18 years of municipal, I have never seen a restriction of a CEO or an executive in a position of hiring temporary employees. Because it is standard operating to just have to fill in, and there's temporary positions, which could be 18 months or 2 years. We could have a temporary position, for example, of somebody, an asset management person that we want to hire a temporary position for 2 years to go out and GIS all of the stop signs and all of the water meters and everything that exists. That would be a permanent person in a temporary position. And then there's temporary employees in permanent positions. And then there's temporary employees in temporary positions. So as I even stated in here, for example, we know we're gonna have need to be able to move. Ideally, we would post those positions internally because they're familiar with our organization. And then we would seek temporary backfilling of those positions. So again, it's standard practice, normal business practice for administration to build allowances within the budget, knowing that there are these little odd jobs that may or may not need to be done or addressed. And it would be, in my opinion and observance and experience, abnormal for a CAO or in that position to be strapped to not be able to address daily operational needs. And as I mentioned, it's evident that this administration, I'm not saying other administrations have done that, but this administration has absolutely not taken advantage of that ability or abused it. And by doing so and having that flexibility, we continue to post exceptional results, getting our work done, and actually we could do a bit more and try to move some projects along. So that's my take on it, and obviously it is a concern to us to be able to operate.
Yes, and I should say that when I say updating the bylaw, I am not saying that 5F3 needs to change. I just want to make that clear too. Anybody else have any further comment? Counselor Scamahorn, then Counselor Ford.
Yeah, I feel like this moves us kind of out of the governing view into the operating view, and it takes us kind of down to that level. And so I would prefer that we stick with setting priorities, setting budgets, and allowing administration to just operate within that to execute. I guess the other thing is if we start directing, like, I want to be able to hold administration accountable. If we start directing these kinds of things and getting involved at this level and they don't work out, then who's making the decisions? Who are we holding? Is it ourselves? Like, so we just did like CAO's performance review. If next year the CAO is unable to fulfill their mandate, but it's because we were, let's say, getting in the way or delaying things by, kind of doing some of the stuff, then how do we hold that administration to account in that regard if we're, stepping down out of the governing chair into the operating chair? I think this moves too far in that direction. So that's my take.
Thank you, Counselor Ford.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the notice of motion was to get the discussion at the table. It had no intention of disrupting any of administration's work. I just want to make that very, very clear. So moving forward, and this is where I have to ask probably Ms. Parsons, being the notice of motion is the notice of motion, can that notice of motion be amended, or does it need to be defeated and another motion put in?
I would say that your notice of motion would be considered a proposed motion and that it's not on the floor. So if you want to adjust it before actually putting it on the floor, you could do that.
You can.
I don't know about that. Notice the motion, it's like, instead of making this motion today, I'm making it tomorrow. So I kind of.
But notice the motion was to bring it forward to this meeting for discussion, so it's basically the notice of motion. I think that to allow the person who brought it to amend it would not cause any issues. I don't see it causing any issues if they wanted to amend it or withdraw. I mean, it's that person's motion. So that's my personal feeling.
If council would prefer to defeat it and do a new one, that's just fine too.
Okay, Mr. Ford, it's your motion.
Sure. I would like to amend my motion to direct administration to bring the CAO bylaw to council for review and update at the next available opportunity.
Okay, and that next available opportunity, you are not saying within this term even, you are not saying.
I'd like to see it within the term, but
But it might not happen. Depending on work schedule.
Yeah,
You know,
I would like to see it this term, but like, we're talking about one clause in the bylaw that I'm worried.
No, you're talking about the whole bylaw if you bring it back.
Yeah, I'm fine with that at a future available meeting.
Okay, so, and there is an understanding, though, I want to be clear, that there is an understanding that when you say future meeting, it's a future meeting, it's not 3 meetings from now or something like that. I just want to.
Well, not 2 years from now.
Okay, at a future meeting. Okay, so Ms. Parsons, what do you have for the bylaw? Or the motion, pardon me.
Sorry. Move that council direct administration to bring the CAO bylaw to council for review and update at the next available opportunity.
Mr. Ford.
And just one question, administration, what do you think the timeline would be on this?
I have absolutely no room in my ability to do this right now.
There's an election.
So I am behind on election. Province is pumping out changes to election.
Which is understood.
Acts right now and the MGA and everything, and trying to run an election is not easy. So
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Not, I would be shocked if we could get it before the end of this term.
Okay, any further comments? Ms. Parsons, I hate to do this to you, but would you read that motion?
Absolutely. No, that's no problem. Move that council direct administration to bring the CAO bylaw to council for review and update at the next available opportunity.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I'll just thank Councillor Ford for bringing it forward and getting the discussion going. This been productive.
Any further comments?
Mike doesn't like you.
Or anybody that sits in.
Okay, we're all clear on the motion? And its intent and. Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
In favor?
Opposed? Okay, it is carried. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, staff, and well, I know these kinds of things are very stressful, so thank you. Next up, we have reports. And first report is the Northern Alberta elected leaders minutes of March 14th, which does seem like a while ago, but we meet, I don't know, maybe 6 times at the most a year. Anyways, on that meeting, it's a gathering of up to 30-40 municipalities. We talk about things that are happening in our municipalities, things that we might advocate for, and just general concerns or good things that are happening as well. So at that meeting, healthcare attraction and retention was a topic. Some communities do things differently, obviously, than our community, which has a healthcare committee of 5 municipalities. And others sponsor scholarships. I don't know, one has a coordinator that they pay to coordinate incoming medical staff and stuff like that. Lots of people are doing lots of municipalities are doing their land use bylaw refreshes. One interesting comment from the Blair Arena, they said, never get into a situation where you're flooding with cold water. Apparently that project did not work well. So they're back to hot water. Okay, Councillor Shannon, anything to add on that one?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Next up then, we have the Municipal Library Board meeting. Councillor Boyd or Deputy Mayor Boychuk, anything you want to highlight there? Actually, 2 meetings.
Nothing too much, just some of the stuff behind the scenes we've been discussing, the high incident rate of pretty serious incidents that we've been having at the library. We've done some stuff with some investing, which is exciting with our funds. Things seem to be ramping up and going other than the incident rates and the security issues.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, and thank the staff for managing as well as they have been. Any questions on the reports? If someone would move that council accept reports 9.1 and 9.2 for information. Okay, Councillor Ford so moves. All those in favor?
In favor?
It is carried. Information, we have a council communication package of April 11th and one of April 17th. I note in the April 11th one, the new Maskawa Medical Center is basically searching for some funding. Anything that municipalities could help with would be helpful. I note that Bill 50, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, has promoted this bill, which is in the legislature right now. It has some rather interesting things in it. You've probably all heard the one that the code of conduct is now a bygone thing if it passes, which leads to some interesting things as well. You have 7 new counselors sitting there and they're looking for direction as to how to do a few things. Maybe some other policy or something will come into effect. Also, the one that is a major concern is, and maybe CAO Miller could explain this better, the one about acting as a person. When the municipality acts as a person.
Yes, so as it was introduced to the House, anytime a CAO uses a natural person's powers, we're required to report it to council within 72 hours. So that's every check we sign, every contract we sign, every person we hire is acting or using natural person powers. So when as soon as it got put in the House, apparently, you know, AM and RMA, their phones started blowing up with all the concerns of the CAOs and whatnot. So they have been speaking with Minister of Municipal Affairs Department, who informed right away that those were unintended consequences of that part of the bill. And they intend to introduce an amendment to it. And I believe they're going to be more framing what actual powers does council need to be made aware of. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I find that kind of thing all very interesting. We've got a government that is very much into red tape reduction, and this doesn't seem to be leading that way. Or maybe it's just my interpretation, I guess. Yeah. So anyways, that's in the House right now, and we'll see if there are some amendments to it. What else was in there? Bill 49 is also in the April 17th one in Alberta municipalities, and that has to do with the new, whatever it is, Alberta Police Group. So it'll be interesting to follow along on what comes of that. So, anything else that somebody wanted to bring up on those communication items? Okay, then how about somebody move that council accept item 10.1 for information? Councillor Carr, so moves. All those in favor?
In favor.
Great, okay, it is carried. Do we have any notices of motion?
And then, your worship, thank you.
Okay, now it's the section comments from the public, and this comments from the public are to do with things that have happened at this meeting, right? Ms. Sloan, would you be here for that? Or yeah.
Are you wanting the floor to
Yeah,
speak
I will speak.
about anything on the meeting,
Pardon me?
on anything that was talked about in the meeting?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good answer. Okay. If you just come forth to the table, please. And the microphone is there if you just want to press the button so it's red, and then we and people in virtual land in here. Thank you.
You want me?
Or do not take my picture.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, press the red button.
Yes, please.
Okay, so actually, I'm not 100% sure why I am here. But I am, and so as a result, I will say something. I just came from work, so I wasn't here for the first part of your meeting. So a few things that do concern me. I'll speak about two. The first one is the easiest, which is, and I wouldn't be speaking about it if I wasn't here to talk about the second one, but seeing as I am, I'm going to talk about the first one. And that is the purchase of the new town hall. As a citizen of Peace River, I just think, and have raised our family here, lived here for a long time. I think that the citizens of Peace River should have had a say in whether a new building should have been purchased for the town. Maybe you guys talked about it somewhere. I'm only speaking for myself. I was completely unaware of it. And I think that there should have been more opportunity to have a voice in whether that decision was made. So that seeing as I'm here, I might as well say that because it is something that I feel strongly about. So that's one thing. Second one is the nuclear plant. So, and again, I'm not sure what I want to say, other than it would appear we have a nuclear plant coming down the tubes in our town. I was here when the last go around was here, was part of trying to look at information that would look at whether it was good, bad, or ugly. And so I think as a town council, I guess it would be my request that you look into all of the aspects of whether this is good or bad for our town. It affects my family personally. There's 2 sites being looked at. Our land is one of those sites, which we were unaware of and found out last week that we own a land in Three Creeks, and that our land is one of the 2 sites that is being considered. So obviously we have a personal interest in this. So I guess just as a town council, it would be my request that it isn't just about money coming into the town and being a business thing. I think that all aspects of this should be looked at, considered. Obviously, we are looking into the goods and the bads of this at this particular point, including why nuclear isn't a good thing in your community, maybe why it is, but I guess my request would be that this doesn't just slip into town without some kind of research being done to look at what does this mean for Northern Alberta, Peace River, and this valley. You know, we live in a valley, and so that in itself creates interesting dynamics. And so again, I'm not sure why I'm here, other than to say I think that you guys have got some responsibility not to just let this come into town without doing some real good research on what this means. Just all of a sudden, we have a nuclear plant back in our backyard, and it just seems like the decision's been made. They're already making applications for this, that, and everything. And that has very long-term impact on all of us. And so I guess that's it.
I would encourage you and ourselves as well. We're in a big learning curve, and there's plus and minuses. To go to the it's called CEO Miller Peace River Nuclear Project.
Yes.
We are going directly to the company. We have expressed a concern, like our land is up on their website, and that's how we found out it's our land.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they talked to us.
Okay.
And so
that's one aspect. The other aspect is the federal regulations and this IAC group. And CEO Miller has to tell me what IAC stands for. Impact Assessment Agency. Canada. So they are the ones that's leading, as I don't know if you were here when I said there's this 30-day window for the first set of reactions to the plan. They are leading that aspect of the process. So that is where you could also go in there and express your views about the project. It's another aspect besides the actual company.
for sure.
Yeah.
But it requires more than one voice, for sure.
Yeah.
And again, I just, think it's more than about money.
Yeah.
Would be my opinion.
Yeah. CEO Miller.
Through you, your worship, I did want to mention, when you go on the federal website, there is also a part there for funding. And they are making funding available to persons, organizations, community members to be able to participate and be involved. So I would invite you to take a look at that as well.
Well, and I think you guys should too. So
Well, we
that's
will
my thought.
absolutely be doing so, but individual residents, and organizations can also apply for that funding to enable them to be sure that they're supported to walk through that journey and get the questions and the answers that they're looking for. So I would invite anybody who has concerns to take a look at that website. I believe May 14th or May 16th, the funding applications close.
Which seems kind of like a fast process, seeing as didn't even know this thing was happening and now it's closing on May the 14th. That seems kind of quick to me.
Well, you should, I would express that view as well. It's, the timeline of that federal regulation and we have to live by it ourselves too, so, yeah. Okay,
Thanks.
yeah, but thank you for coming. Okay, so next up, we have our key communication items from this meeting. And, oh, sorry. We've got appointments to the library board and MPC. What else would you like to bring forth for key communication items on this meeting there? For me? Passing of order here. Today is a day of mourning for victims in a workplace, who died in or suffered violence in the workplace. Okay, I lost track of what we talked about here.
Did you bring up the tax bylaw, et cetera?
Tax bylaw, the audit. The nuclear project. Anything else? The council board?
Yes, not a part of the meeting, but a big thank you to administration for all their hard work with trade fairs.
Okay, so moving on then, things that are happening in the community, I think it's this coming weekend, the Rotaract Dodgeball event is happening. Next week, May 8th, people can attend the Legion at 6:30, and then there's the memorial for D-Day, D-Day. It's their 80th anniversary. Women in the North Conference, sponsored by Community Futures, is May 6th in Manning and May 8th here. And we're into volunteer week. So there's lots of volunteers out here, including the ones that volunteer for various council committees here, so that's helpful. And I think I mentioned earlier on, May 5th, Monday, the Missing and Murdered Women and Children recognition, red dresses. There'll be a walk from the museum to the park and a commemorative ceremony there at 5 p.m. The walk starts at, I think, at 4:30. Okay, anything else somebody wants to? No. Okay, do you need a little bit of a break before we move into closed session, 5 minutes or so?
That wouldn't hurt.
Okay, then.